Good afternoon and welcome to the Pittsburgh City Council's Cablecast public hearing for Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, relative to Bill 2023-2089, Child Care Zoning Code Changes. Will the clerk please read the subject of the hearing?
Today's public hearing is on Bill 2023-2089, Child Care Zoning Code Changes. Ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code, Title 9, Zoning Code, Article 5, Use Regulations, Chapter 911, Primary Uses at Section 911.02, Use Table in Article 6, Development Standards, Chapter 914, Parking, Loading, and Access at Section 914.02, Off-Street Parking Schedules, and adding Section 912.09.b, Child Care Accessory Use at Chapter 912, Accessory Uses and Structures, all to amend Child Care Uses and Standards.
Thank you. And I'm Bobby Wilson. I failed to mention that initially. I represent District 1 and also the Chair of Land Use and Economic Development Committee. And for the record, we are joined today by Council members Erica Strasburger and Councilwoman Deborah Gross. And we will have, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to have a presentation by City Planning. And then Corey, and Kate, if you could introduce yourselves, and then you can go right into the presentation.
Sure thing. Thank you, Councilman, and thanks, Council members, for joining us. My name is Corey Lehman. I'm the city's zoning administrator and assistant director with the planning department.
Hi, thank you again for having us. Kate Rakis. I am a senior planning manager in zoning and development review at City Planning.
Great.
Oh.
You can proceed when you're ready.
Yeah, we're going to get the PowerPoint up.
I thought you were looking to me for
Oh.
the go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, do you want me to? Okay, so this is a council bill that we worked with Councilman Wilson's office on. This came out of some discussions and concerns raised around childcare businesses and some of the barriers that the zoning code, as it's currently set up, was creating. So we examined what the standards of the code were. And sorry, I'm not able to. Thank you. And we also wanted to eliminate anywhere where the zoning code was duplicative, any standards that were duplicative of standards that are handled through the state's licensure. That we had a couple of things in the zoning code that we don't need to be regulating aspects that are regulated by the state that weren't related to zoning specifically. We reached out and held some meetings with child care advocates and educators and asked them for feedback on what we had identified as potential barriers, and heard from them with that which helped us develop the legislation and led to, I think, an even stronger bill. This was introduced by Councilman Wilson, and it's co-sponsored by Councilmember Gross. And go ahead. This was before the Planning Commission. It was referred to the Planning Commission by City Council, and on November 28th, we held a public hearing, and City Planning Commission made a recommendation to City Council with conditions. Notice for this public hearing was 21 days in advance. So the change, the current process, I should say, is there is an in-home childcare with 1 to 3 children, which is permitted by right as a home occupation, but there are a number of standards that can make that home occupation use prohibitive and challenging. And then there's a childcare limited use, which is between 4 and 6 children. That's permitted by right in 2-unit residential zoning districts, 3-unit and multi-unit residential districts, and in our commercial and mixed-use zoning districts. And it's a special exception which requires zoning board of adjustment review in single-unit attached and detached zoning districts. And this requires one parking space per 800 square feet of the childcare use. Go ahead. This also has a couple of special exception standards. One of them is outdoor play areas, which is the one that's duplicative of the state licensing. And then finally, the childcare general use, which is for 7 or more children, and that's permitted by right only in the multi-unit residential and commercial and mixed-use zoning districts. All right. And what we've proposed is to make the limited use 4 to 6 children permitted by right in all residential, commercial, and mixed-use zoning districts, and removing the criteria and the need for a special exception, which added cost and time to that process. And then childcare general, we've allowed it to be permitted by right in multi-unit residential, commercial, and mixed-use districts, and allowed it as a special exception in the single-unit attached and detached residential districts. The one of the condition from the Planning Commission is as a positive recommendation to City Council, is that it's also permitted by right in the H district, and in the RIV RM for childcare general. So these are just a couple of tweaks that the commission, when we went through that process, realized we wanted to make sure that it was consistent across the different districts. And then we also made a change for childcare accessory, which is typically the in-home for three or fewer children. We've made that as easy as possible. It's permitted by right. It doesn't require an application and review, and it's exempted from the other home occupancy standards. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Corey. And our next order will be, order of business will go to testimony from registered speakers. And once you are called upon, please give your full name and neighborhood for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address council. Please keep in mind that this is an opportunity for the community to speak directly to the Pittsburgh City Council about the issue at hand, and a time for council to listen. Therefore, council will not be responding to individual comments. And with that, we did have 2 speakers. One couldn't make it and submitted to the clerk. Yeah, forget what it's called, but basically, send a letter to the clerk and it will be distributed to all members. I think everyone already has it in their inbox. So our first speaker will be Emily Neff. Emily, if you can unmute your mic, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and provide comments today in favor of Council Bill 2023-2089. My name is Emily Neff. I live in the North Side in the Mexican War Street area. I'm the Director of Public Policy at Trying Together. We support high quality care and education for young children by providing advocacy, community resources, and professional growth opportunities for the needs and rights of children, their families, and the individuals who interact with them. I want to thank Councilman Bobby Wilson for introducing and sponsoring the bill, and Councilmember Deb Gross for also sponsoring the bill, as well as the Department of City Planning for being so responsive to the child care community based on their feedback. Home-based providers are important, yet often overlooked option for child care within the early care and education system. And, we know they play a critical role in early care and education landscape. They can offer smaller group sizes, more flexible schedules, and usually more affordability. They usually serve the families in their own neighborhood and provide a safe, nurturing, and inclusive environment. We also hear from parents that they tend to offer more options for mixed age groups, so siblings can be together in the same space if a parent chooses an option like this. In partnership with Chatham University Center for Women's Entrepreneurship, we offer a home-based childcare course that includes information about best business practices, opening a small business, childcare licensing, the quality rating system. And last week, the fourth cohort started, and it includes participants from Pittsburgh with the goal of opening a new home-based program. And I can share that one of the biggest barriers we hear from these aspiring small business owners is what they face with zoning in their communities. I know Patricia Stanko, who's a home-based provider in the Mount Washington area. I spoke with her yesterday on the phone. I think she sent in written testimony, but she's very supportive of these changes as well. And I thought it would be also just interesting to share, within the city, there are 42 family child care providers with the capacity to serve 242 children, and more than 53% of those children who are being served in that option utilize the state child care subsidy. There are 36 group child care providers, also another category of home base in the city. They've with the capacity to serve 415 children. 86% of the children served in that option, those children use CCW, our state subsidy program. And so I think it's just important to note that our home-based providers in the city are serving families using the child care subsidy at much higher rates than oftentimes center-based care is. And so with these proposed changes, helping home-based providers.
Thank you, Emily. And we don't have any other registered speakers. So if there are any speakers in the audience that haven't registered and would like to speak, now's the time to come forward and give comment. Are there any other speakers? Thank you. And we're going to move on to members, and we'll start with Erica. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you for chairing. I actually will make comment, but I'll defer to the other sponsor of the bill first to make comment, and then happy to make comment after.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I just want to say thank you to the lead sponsor, Councilwoman Wilson's office, for doing such good work on this. It makes so much sense, and it's going to be such a good functional change to make childcare businesses easier to operate in the city. We've been working on this initiative for many years, as is reflected in the whereas and the recitation clauses at the beginning of the legislation. Thank you for including that. City Council and the Women's Caucus had allocated funds. $2 million has been distributed through Trying Together to help small operators. We had a post agenda last year, and we heard that from operators and the program administrators that they were the recipients of the funds were able to raise wages, retain workers, add more kids, and expand their program, and most importantly, survive the pandemic, because we know that some 50,000 childcare seats across the state have been lost. So everything we can do to lower these barriers, like this legislation, is such a great idea. I really appreciate that. And just a note for the historic record, when City Council allocated those funds, that was back when it was myself, Councilwoman Teresa Kale-Smith, but also Councilwoman Natalia Rudiak and Councilwoman Darlene Harris, who were the leads on establishing this fund. So I just needed to note that for the record. Thank you so much for your work.
All right, thank you. Councilperson?
Thank you. No, I really just wanted to offer my thanks to the bill sponsor and co-sponsor and for your initiative on this. You know, we often have to find roundabout ways to make impact and change on issues that we deeply care about. And so many of us on council care about providing quality childcare throughout the city and the region. And so then, double thanks to our zoning staff for helping us, even though I'm not this was not the bill that I sponsored, helping us generally translate the work that we'd like to do into the very complicated language of zoning and to bring it to fruition. So thank you for your work here as well. I'm fully supportive of anything that will reduce red tape generally and specifically for home-based childcare. It's critically important. We need to support that industry, and I'm really grateful for this bill before us today. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll make some comments. I just want to say first off to Corey and Kate and everyone at City Planning and everyone that works in zoning as well. I appreciate the partnership that council has with our planning department, planning and zoning. So, a bill like this doesn't get done without your assistance. So I appreciate everything you have done and, are doing currently to make sure that, Pittsburgh is still going to be, a place for families, especially with this bill, and a place that's going to thrive. I wanted to make some general comments, but I do have a specific story that recently happened that I think relates to this. It was actually a colleague. I ran into a colleague at the, where I dropped my 4-year-old off for daycare. And it turns out that they were able to get a spot as well with their newborn. But they were telling me how they recently just got in, and they're so fortunate to have gotten into the daycare because their other child, who's, I'm not sure of the age, but still is of the age that has to go to daycare, is in the East End. And this was in the North Side where I ran into this person. So they're traveling 2 different places to take their kids to daycare, for childcare. And, I would say that's, myself, others, we have the means to try and maneuver around the city with a car. Although daycare is extremely expensive, still have the funds to spend to do that, and to be able to work on this bill, was just, it was very, rewarding to see further down the line how this would be really helpful to Pittsburghers, because it really does cut the red tape to make sure that, if you're from both ends, if you currently have the license and you want to operate, you don't have to require that parking space, if they were going to spend the funds to put a pad on the lot or something, that's not a requirement anymore. That's not a barrier. And, so because there is that state license that, verifies everything, and then also it just doesn't, on the other side, just, the local zoning won't prevent someone from thinking about opening one in the time when we need it most. And, I think it's just a bill that we'll hopefully see come to fruition here pretty soon, bring it back to council, and hopefully it gets, full approval from council, because I think it's the right thing to do. So looking forward to, hopefully we somehow we'll get some numbers on it to see, what this change can do for people, and families. All right. Other than that, I don't have anything further. Does anybody have other comments?
I will thank you all for your comments, and just say that we do value this ability to work with council members and get there early on and try to come together and create a legislation that is something that works well for what the council members' goals are, as well as is administrable. And this was an easy win, because let's hope we're hoping that it is passed and that it's a win. But I think a lot of people have personal experiences. It's been a while since my kids were that young, but definitely remember going through a lot of challenges just trying to find childcare for younger children. I have a kid with special needs, which adds another layer for sure. And so I saw that personally as a parent, and then in the work that we do, just working with customers, seeing firsthand what the struggles were with people trying to, navigate our technical requirements that sometimes seemed outsized for what the aspect of the work that they were doing was. So we're really glad that we were able to work together on this.
Yeah. As we continue to take away requirements, you might be left with nothing to do.
I doubt that. Just more time for me to assist you all.
I'm just joking.
Nope. Thank you all. Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, we're adjourned.